Imagine standing on the edge of a breathtakingly beautiful cliff, looking out over an ocean of endless financial freedom. In your hand, you hold a tool that has the power to either imaginect a massive multi-million-dollar estate right there on the ridge, or completely blow the ground out from under your feet, sending you spiraling into the abyss. That tool is financial leverage, better known as debt. It is touted online as the ultimate secret of the ultra-wealthy, the fast track to passive income, and the golden ticket to escaping the rat race. But what they don't tell you is that when you purchase volatile, unstable assets with debt, you aren't building a wealth empire. You are setting a financial trap. Today, we are going to dismantle the illusion of easy leveraged cash flow and look at what elite wealth builders do differently to protect their fortunes. Let me tell you a quick story about a guy named Marcus. Marcus was a brilliant, incredibly hardworking corporate executive who wanted nothing more than to escape the grueling corporate grind. He spent months watching viral videos explaining how the wealthy use other people's money to buy cash-flowing assets, pay off the debts using business revenue, and walk away as free asset owners. He wanted in. Marcus took out a massive $300,000 SBA loan, emptied his personal life savings, and purchased a busy, established neighborhood Italian restaurant. It looked like a foolproof plan. There was constantly a line out the door. But Marcus made a critical, life-altering mistake. He confused a highly volatile, high-turnover business with a stable, predictable asset. 6 months later, a trendy competitor opened up nearby, a couple of key staff quit, and his traffic dipped by just 25%. But while his customers disappeared, his massive monthly bank payment remained exactly the same. He couldn't pivot, couldn't afford marketing, and was forced into a devastating foreclosure in under 12 months. Marcus learned the hard way that when you fund volatility with rigid debt, you are forcing a fragile organism to feed an unforgiving machine. Marcus's tragedy isn't an isolated incident. It is a predictable mathematical outcome. The internet loves to tell you that any asset is a good asset if you buy it with debt. But the statistics paint a completely different, much darker picture. There are certain asset classes in the United States that have an incredibly high rate of failure, pushing 80% or more, specifically when you introduce debt into the equation. Introducing leverage to a fragile business is like putting a rocket booster on a bicycle. If everything goes perfectly straight, you fly. But the moment you hit a single bump in the road, the entire structure disintegrates. Let's look at the 4 major financial failure zones where everyday investors constantly lose their shirts trying to copy elite strategies with the wrong assets. If you want to protect your capital, you must identify these traps before you step in them. The first major trap is the independent restaurant, where razor-thin margins are instantly vaporized by rigid, high-interest bank loans. Second is Main Street retail, where customer loyalty is highly fragile and transition periods offer zero financial flexibility for monthly debt schedules. Third is the saturated short-term rental market, which functions as a volatile hospitality business disguised as stable real estate. And fourth is unvetted digital assets, where dynamic search algorithms and market shifts can erase your entire passive income stream overnight. These 4 asset classes are highly sensitive to market shifts, economic downturns, and operational changes. When you buy them with cash, you might survive a bad year. When you buy them with debt, a single bad month can destroy you. Let's dive deeper into the first failure zone, independent restaurants. The restaurant industry is notoriously brutal, with up to 80% of establishments failing within their first 5 years. Why is this? It's a game of pennies. A typical successful restaurant operates on razor-thin net profit margins of just 3 to 5%. If food costs spike or utility rates rise, that margin disappears. When an investor takes out a heavy loan to purchase a restaurant, they are adding a massive non-negotiable fixed cost to an already suffocating balance sheet. There is absolutely zero cash buffer left for emergencies, food price inflation, or staff turnovers. A restaurant needs to be highly agile to survive. But leverage strips away that agility, turning a bad seasonal quarter into an instant bankruptcy. The second failure zone is Main Street retail and early-stage startups. Half of these businesses vanish by year 5, but the survival rate drops off a cliff when you introduce a leveraged buyout structure. Small retail businesses require immense flexibility to pivot, rebrand, or change their inventory. When you buy a local boutique or service business with debt, you are betting that the transition of ownership will go perfectly. But in reality, when a beloved local owner sells, customer attrition almost always follows. If your incoming revenue drops by even 15% during the handoff, an equity-focused investor can easily cut costs and weather the storm. A debt-funded investor, however, has to pay the bank the exact same dollar amount on the first of the month, rapidly draining their personal reserves. Next, let's talk about the modern darling of real estate, short-term rentals, or STRs. Many people buy into the myth that an Airbnb is just passive real estate. But let's be entirely honest. A short-term rental is not real estate. It is a hospitality business. It is highly seasonal, deeply dependent on customer reviews, and incredibly sensitive to consumer discretionary spending. In recent years, thousands of amateur investors bought properties at peak prices using high-interest mortgages, assuming peak season nightly rates would last forever. But the moment local municipalities step in with sweeping zoning bans or platform algorithms change, your bookings dry up. If you are forced to pivot a leveraged Airbnb into a traditional long-term rental, your monthly rental income will plummet, failing to cover that massive vacation home mortgage and leading straight to foreclosure. The fourth and most modern trap involves unvetted digital assets. Chasing quick, high-yield cash flows by taking out personal loans, credit cards, or high-interest lines of credit to buy e-commerce stores, content blogs, or crypto nodes is financial roulette. Digital spaces suffer from extreme volatility, constant platform changes, and virtually no barriers to entry. If you take out a $50,000 loan to buy a cash-flowing website, and Google rolls out a massive core algorithm update, your search traffic and ad revenue can drop to zero in 24 hours. You are left holding a completely worthless digital ghost town, but you are still legally obligated to pay back that $50,000 loan to a bank that couldn't care less about your digital misfortune. To truly understand how to build wealth, we have to look at the massive strategic split between speculative traps and elite wealth plays. While speculative investors chase high-risk, volatile startups, crypto trends, and trendy boutiques with narrow, fragile profit margins, elite wealth builders do the exact opposite. They target highly stable, predictable assets like established multifamily real estate or essential commercial properties. They ensure their assets have thick, reliable margins with decades of historical predictability. More importantly, they align their acquisitions with massive structural tax benefits, such as depreciation and strategic write-offs, and they secure long-term, low-interest corporate commercial loans rather than volatile, personal liability loans. How do the elite separate a wealth-building opportunity from a bankruptcy trap? They use a simple, non-negotiable mathematical stress test called the Debt Service Coverage Ratio, or DSCR. Calculated by dividing your net operating income by your annual debt service, this ratio tells you exactly how much breathing room your asset has. Elite investors refuse to look at optimistic best-case scenarios. Instead, they require a minimum DSCR of 1.25 times, meaning the asset's net income is at least 25% higher than the debt payment. Before you ever sign a loan document, you must stress test the deal. If your revenue drops by 30% tomorrow, can you still comfortably pay the bank and keep the lights on? If the answer is no, you must have the discipline to walk away. If you want to use debt safely and effectively to scale your wealth, you must commit to 3 non-negotiable rules. First, predictability. Leverage must only fund highly stable assets backed by long-term, high-quality agreements and consistent demand. Second, tax benefits. Never take on corporate debt without receiving structural tax write-offs, interest deductions, or heavy depreciation perks that offset your risk. And third, reserves. You must always maintain a deep, untouchable cash runway to service your loans during inevitable business winters, economic recessions, or market corrections. Leverage should only ever be used to accelerate a machine that is already working, not to jumpstart a broken one. At the end of the day, building unshakable wealth isn't about taking massive, uncalculated risks to chase overnight riches. It is about playing a calculated, strategic game where the math is always on your side. Stop using high-interest personal debt to gamble on volatile, low-margin businesses. Protect your hard-earned capital, master the actual rules of the financial game, and learn how to identify true, cash-flowing assets. If you are ready to stop falling into leverage traps and start building real, lasting financial freedom, do me a favor right now. Like this video, share it with someone who needs a financial wake-up call, and subscribe to the channel for more daily financial lessons designed to help you build unshakable wealth. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.